Me clock. I just noticed I had to get my pussy out of here. Get out of here, cat, you stink!
So, the Doctor Who Season 2 Collection box set was recently announced, and for some reason, I just couldn't get hyped about it. And I was really surprised about that because if you watch my channel, you will know that I'm a big William Hartnell fan. He's my favourite Doctor, and I was really looking forward to this release. But when the trailer came out, I noticed quite a bit of things were missing from this release compared to other releases. And on first glance, it's quite obvious as to why. When William Hartnell was Doctor Who, there was generally around 40 plus episodes a year. So there were a lot of episodes coming out compared to later on when Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor, for example, when there was like 13 episodes a season. So it's a bit of a different scenario. You can't really compare the two. But I think because these sets are at such a high, incredible quality standard, that when some things are missing, it can be a little bit disappointing. So today, I want to discuss my first impressions of the Season 2 Collection box set. Before I make any criticisms, I want to make it very clear that none of these criticisms or notes are really aimed at the people who work on this set. I know that these people are working very, very hard and they've got big workloads, and these are people who are passionate and they're putting their love, sweat and tears into these productions, and you can tell. You can feel the love of these sets, which is why I'm such a huge fan of them. I'm a big fan of everyone who works on them. So I want to make it very clear that I am not attacking these people, because if you know me, I'm big on workers' rights and I hate big business. So none of this is at the workers. I love and respect all of them, and I'm a huge fan of their work, which is the reason why we love these sets so much. So now I'm going to talk about some of the things I'm really excited about and some of the things I'm a bit disappointed about. So let's start with the remastering of the episodes. Peter Crocker is one of the people who headlines these restorations, and he does an amazing job at making these episodes look so much better. I still think one of the best looking seasons is season 19. He really made those colours pop. I felt like with a lot of the DVDs, a lot of the colour was a bit too yellowy. Peter Crocker does a perfect job of honouring the original colour, but also just making it a bit nicer looking. But only a couple of the stories, Dark Invasion of Earth and The Time Meddler, are the only two stories where they've gone back to the original source and done new scans. The rest of them are all done from the DVD masters that they're cleaning up and making look nice. And that might be because that's the best those ones are ever going to look anyway, so it might be a waste of time to go back and rescan the other episodes. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm going to assume that it is. But you know, Peter went on to say on Twitter that they couldn't scan the original copy of The Crusade, The Lion, episode 1, because the budget didn't really allow. But he also said there's a good chance it'd be a waste of time anyway, because there's a big line scratch throughout the whole print, and he thinks that probably has gotten worse over time. So maybe these are the best possible scans that we can have. This is the best they can look. One of my favourite things on these collection box sets are the optional CGI. You know, in season 12, we had Revenge of the Cybermen get a new CGI update, and you know, for the most recent one, for Time Lash for season 22. So at the beginning of the range, I thought this would be a staple for every single release. They would get one new optional CGI for one of the stories. And I was fine with that. Obviously, if we lived in a fantasy world, I would love brand new CGI for every single episode as an optional extra, of course. I know not everybody loves them, and that's fine. And I love the fact that they are optional, unlike something like Star Wars, where it's like, no, you have to have updated special effects, which I think is a bit unfair. But I love at these releases, they're optional and you can turn them on and off depending if you like them or not. And I think the quality of the new CGI that's on these Blu-ray sets are a lot better than they used to be, and they're really, really great, and I really enjoy them. So to see that they weren't on the season 2 collection box set, I was a bit upset, because I really thought the chase would be a perfect one for a new CGI. Because some of those model sequences haven't really held up, and I don't think they really held up when they first got broadcast. And of course, that's part of Doctor Who's charm, and we love that. But that's the thing about the optional CGI. I've watched every episode of classic Doctor Who so many times, especially the William Hartnell era. I know this era off by heart. It's my niche of Doctor Who that I'm very, very passionate about. And the thing about these optional CGI replacements, it gives you a new way of watching a story that you love already. And for some stories, I think it can really fix the storytelling and make it a bit more palatable to watch, because you're not so distracted by some of the wonky effects. I think Terror of the Autons is a great example where they've cleaned up a bit of the CSO fringing, so it looks a bit more natural. And I think that's where it's at its best. But yeah, I was just a bit disappointed not to see an optional CGI for that one. I think for one of the first times ever, there's been criticism about the cover art, which is really surprising because all of these sets have incredible cover art and I'm a huge fan of Lee Binding's work. I've heard a lot of the criticisms are revolving around that it doesn't look like William Hartnell. Which I totally get, but sometimes Bill Hartnell just does that. Sometimes his face just morphs. It's really strange. There's a whole bunch of images out there where William Hartnell does not look like him. Unfortunately, I think Lee happened to choose a photo where it doesn't look like Bill at all. I never really liked this photo that's the basis of this art as well, because I've always thought he looks a bit off. But I don't think it's a bad piece of art, and I quite like the colors and I think it looks really good. I never thought green would be such a great color to put with William Hartnell. I never would have chosen that color. I see him more as a gold and purple. You know how people have assigned colors? Isn't that weird? I don't know why I'm talking about this. Ultimately, I'm not as mad about this as other people seem to be. And I think, like I said earlier, every piece of commercial products has the right to be critiqued. And I think it's just how we approach it. I just don't think you should be nasty about it. A lot of people were saying, why didn't they base it off other photos from that era where William Hartnell is facing forward, where he looks like himself? I've heard those photos are under a different copyright and you'd have to get a license to use it. And apparently that's out of the budget. Who knows? Maybe Lee just thought this was a good photo to use. I think the more I look at it, the more it grows on me. I think my first instinct was like, that doesn't look like Bill.
Sorry to this man.
But that's because I'm such like a crazy William Hartnell stan that if something's not completely right, I'm like, what's going on here? What's this? What's happening? But that is William Hartnell's face. It is his face. It just doesn't look like it. Curious. One of the things I really enjoyed from this collection box set is the optional 5.1 surround sound mixes for some of the episodes. For some of the later seasons, like Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, a lot of their original studio tapes still exist. So if they wanted to make a 5.1 surround sound mix, they have the original studio audio, so they can just have the vocals isolated without having to remove all the music and sound effects, like with older Doctor Who where the studio tapes don't exist. So for a lot of those seasons where studio tapes don't exist, they seem to choose one episode they think would benefit the most from a 5.1 surround sound, and then they would manually pick out all the sound effects and music and make a 5.1 surround sound mix. And I think they're one of the best things that come out of these sets because they sound so incredible and they add this extra depth to the whole sound design, and I really, really enjoy them. So I'm a little bit upset that we don't get a 5.1 surround sound mix for this series. But there is going to be an optional sound mix for Dalek Invasion of Earth, which they haven't really gone into detail, but I'm assuming it means they've probably updated the Dalek voices to make it sound a bit more Dalek-y, and possibly some new sound effects and maybe some music, I don't know. So I'm looking forward to hearing that, so, at least it's something. But yeah, it feels a bit... I don't know, the whole release was like, it's close, but it's not quite there. And I think it's because maybe the project is just too big. Maybe these Hartnell sets, because there's so many episodes a season, it's just too big of a project that the budget doesn't really stretch to do it justice compared to the later seasons. And because I'm such a William Hartnell fan, I of course am a bit upset that it's not getting the same amount of love as the other seasons, which, in theory, it is getting the same amount of love. But because the seasons are so long, it doesn't feel as comprehensive as the other seasons do. And once again, this is a criticism of the budget, not the people working on it. I want to make it that very, very clear. But even though some of my favourite special features aren't going to be included in this season, there are some that I really do love that are going to be included. I am very much looking forward to Behind the Sofa. It's one of my favourite segments where they get classic series companions and some cast and crew to come in and watch the current season the box set's about. One of my favourite people on these sets is Janet Fielding, who played Tegan. And I think she has some really funny critiques and, she's poking fun at it, but it comes from a place of love. I know a lot of people don't like Janet Fielding and Peter Davison on Behind the Sofa because they could be a bit harsh sometimes, but I think it honestly does come from a place of love, and it's supposed to be just like, haha, isn't Doctor Who silly and camp? Which it is. It is a silly and camp show, which is why we love it so much. It's not one of those boring sci-fi shows that are super serious, which is why I love Doctor Who. It's not like any other show on television. And I think that's why we all love it. And I'm sure Janet will have some very fun things to say about the Web Planet. which I'm really looking forward to seeing them watch. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Carol Ann Ford on the sofa as well, and seeing her thoughts and feelings about the show after she's just left. Because there's a few episodes of Planet of the Giants, Dark Invasion of Earth. Would love to see what she has to say about them, and then what she has to say about Vicky, and seeing her co-stars as she's left. One of the good things about Behind the Sofa is these people have either not watched these episodes for decades, or they've never seen them before. So it's really great to see their thoughts and feelings as they're watching it. So I cannot wait for a new season of Behind the Sofa, and it's gonna be great. And one of the great documentary series that these Blu-ray sets have had is the Looking For series, where they really investigate certain figures in Doctor Who's history that haven't really been given much spotlight. And they're going to be doing one on David Whittaker, Looking for David, which I'm really looking forward to. I think David Whittaker is one of those people who are very important to the history of Doctor Who, and especially to the Daleks. And I think it'd be very interesting to see what comes out of this documentary. One of the things I'm looking forward to is a cleaned up version of The Crusade. It's one of those missing stories I haven't really watched. I have watched the Telesnap reconstruction, I've done it, but I haven't really retained it. It hasn't stayed in my memory as one of those stories that I really wish would come back. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe I'm just not very interested by the subject. Maybe it's all the blackface that's in it, which is really disturbing and I don't like watching it, even though it wouldn't be the only story of Doctor Who where blackface or yellowface is being used. But yeah, it's not one of those stories that I've been really excited about. So I'm interested to see what it looks like cleaned up, how they're going to do the Telesnap reconstruction. Is it going to be more engaging? Is it going to look really nice? It's a complete mystery. I don't know what they're doing with it. Obviously, I would love if they could have done an animation for the set, but I never thought that was going to be financially possible. I didn't think that was ever going to be an option. And with BBC America deciding not to continue to fund animations of Doctor Who, we don't really know what the future of animated Doctor Who looks like. Either they found another investor, but I've only heard one whisper about it and I don't feel confident about it, or we might not be getting animations for quite some time. Who knows? But yeah, honestly, I've heard nothing about any future animations, which, makes me a bit concerned about the eventual season 3 box set. Because, if the budget doesn't stretch to doing new CGI for the season or a new 5.1 surround sound mix, how is the budget going to stretch to do that many reconstructions? There's 7 stories that are either completely missing or missing individual episodes. 7. Well, Galaxy 4 is being animated, so that's one off the list. Mission to the Unknown will probably have that recreation by the University of Central Lancashire, which I would love to see on there as well. Probably with a colour version as too, because they also shot it in colour. So that would be great as well. But obviously they would probably do a reconstruction with that one as well. But that is just one episode. Either way, there's so much for season 3. I have no idea how they could possibly cover that set and make it comprehensive. And if you were someone who didn't like Telesnap reconstructions, which a lot of Doctor Who fans aren't, and I get that because it's not the most satisfactory way of watching a piece of entertainment. Watching a reconstruction is like a historical document. It's laid out, it's very this is what happened in this shot, and this person walked over there, and it lacks emotion, it lacks performances, and I don't think it's the best way to watch a piece of television. I like Telesnap reconstructions because I'm interested in them historically. I'm interested in missing episodes because of the fact they are missing. So I find Telesnap reconstructions fascinating, but the majority of people probably don't. So I'd be very surprised to see what their sales numbers would be, or if this is a set that people would just skip. I went to JB Hi-Fi, which is like HMV in the UK, where you can just buy DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that. I don't know what a US equivalent is. I don't fucking know. I'm not from America, I'm from Australia, okay? Either way, there's still copies of Sylvester McCoy's season 24 for sale. You can still buy them. And they're at every JB Hi-Fi store, they're online. People aren't buying them. And I'm sure William Hartnell's not going to sell as well here as well. As much as I love William Hartnell and I love Sylvester McCoy, they are never ranked as the most popular doctors on any of the sets. They're always at the bottom. So if they need a bigger budget for season 3, are they really going to get it? Because I don't think so. But yeah, it makes you splink.
Splink!
Another thing I loved seeing the trailer with Maureen O'Brien playing Vicky. And new Mythmakers content in the year of our Lord 2022. Very exciting. I think that was really nice and sweet. But yeah, no notes. Perfect. No problems. Love it. Love Maureen O'Brien. Love Vicky. Love the Mythmakers. It's all good.
So is this a set that you've already pre-ordered, or it's something you're not interested in? Are you even interested in this era of Doctor Who? Let me know in the comments below. I may or may not read them. I've been avoiding social media lately. It hasn't been very fun for me anymore. I feel like everyone's just angry and fighting all the time, and I miss a time when people were just kind of happy discussing Doctor Who. And I think that does exist out there online somewhere. Yeah, I just feel like that's kind of just missing from my life at the moment, and that's fine. I'm just hanging out with my real life Doctor Who friends, and yeah. I'm going to be filming another video tomorrow with one of my friends, Gemma, who's not a Doctor Who fan. So I'm looking forward to introducing her to a bit of Doctor Who. And then I'll probably disappear again and you won't see me for 3 to 6 months. And then I'll come back and then I'll go away again. And you know, a bit of a same old, you know how it is. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nez YouTube channel.